It's Emily Francis. I used to live in Atlanta, Georgia, but for the last 3 years, since 2020, I live in the Mediterranean. I live on the island of Malta. And Malta is its own country. Can I start with that? It's its own beautiful country. It is not Italy. It is south of Italy, but it is its own country. It used to be owned by many Middle Eastern countries, then Britain, and now it's its own peaceful, neutral country here south of Sicily and in the Mediterranean. So, welcome everyone. I am in Malta and I am grateful for this opportunity to speak with you. I'm the author of the latest release, The Taste of Joy, Mediterranean Wisdom for a Life Worth Savoring. And as of today, available on audio. How cool is that? It arrived in Malta like 20 minutes ago before I came onto this. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for giving me your time and your space. We're going to talk about creating a mindset for joy. And I want you to understand something quickly and easily. It is not programmable. It's not something that you wake up in the morning and say, you know what? Today is going to be all about joy, and I'm going to feel it all day long. It's really more of an awareness, and it's a welcoming sensation. So, first, we want to feel our bodies because it cannot just be a mind program and it cannot just be a body. It has to be both. The mind and the body, they have to come together and lead this expedition into joy. And the truth is, joy is something felt in the physiology of the body. So, I want to first explain. In the first chapter of my book, I talk about the spices of life. In Malta, the spices in Mediterranean Maltese dish is basil, oregano, and thyme. In what we think of for spice of life, we think the body, the mind, and the soul. But for the spices or of an elevated existence, I want to say happy, joy, and bliss. And I want to explain that they're not the same thing, but they're all interchangeable, but not the way that we think. Happy is fleeting. It is a present tense emotion. And when you feel it, your body begins to recognize it more and more as it comes. So don't push it away when you feel happy, but it's not so deeply felt inside the bones and the marrow and the cells and the physiology the way that joy is. So happy comes and goes. And when it gets there, invite it in. And when you feel happy, sit still and let it be there for as long as it wants to be with you. Joy is something that is physiological. It is something that can bring up emotion, memory, muscle memory, experiences maybe from your past. Maybe you smell something and all of a sudden you relive. Like if I smell a cherry cigar, I think of my papa and I can feel like I'm on his couch, even though he's been on the other side for a really, really long time. But I can feel it again like I'm there. That's joy. Joy is something that's a memory and it's spectacular. And then bliss. Bliss is something that is beyond that. It's more like heaven on earth. So sometimes we get blissed out. It's like feeling a little high. That's bliss. So that's happy, joy, and bliss. Since I moved here to Malta, I changed everything in my life. Literally everything. So I moved from the Bible Belt in the southern part of the United States into the most liberating, freeing experience of my life. But I also don't have a work visa here. And so I had to think about what do I want to do that nourishes my soul? What are the things that make me feel alive? And how can I manage to still continue to write? Because writing is something that I'm called to do and must do. And thank you, Llewellyn, because you let me continue in my writing journal and journey. But when I got here, I called the local newspapers and I wanted to write for them and the magazines. And only one responded. And it was the tourism magazine, Oh My Malta. And I wrote to them and I said, I'm an American author. I want to write an article. And I said, no, that's not true. I want to write a column. And so we started to talk back and forth because they wrote back and they said, full disclosure, we'd love to have you with us. We can't afford you. And I didn't have the heart to say, I actually can't take your money over here because I don't have a work visa, but I still work in America. But anyway, because of that experience, I started a column more than 2 years ago where I interview local farmers, fishermen, and chefs because this is a GMO free country, which is like, that was what I was after. So I wanted to learn the ways of the land and how you farm without using all that big pharma, nasty, toxic pesticides, fungicides, and sprays. So I started to find these farmers. And by the way, nobody gave me anybody's number. This wasn't like, okay, start with this guy and interview. This was me coming out there and walking up and down the fishing village for 2 weeks straight, trying to find somebody that would grant me an interview on the local fish that is the whole country stops what they're doing for 2 months for lampuki. Lampuki is baby mahi mahi before it's migrated over towards the Atlantic Ocean. So the whole world goes mahi or lampuki crazy here in Malta, but none of the fishermen want you in their face with a camera because I don't just write or interview, I come with a camera crew. This is all their idea. So I come with a camera crew and we interview these farmers and fishermen. And over the last 2 years, I have built a Rolodex that people would pay a lot of money for because I have built a life here in a foundation. And from each person, I've met the next people and the next people. Here's what I've learned about joy in action, in motion in your life. These farmers and fishermen, they don't come from a lot of money, and their life is literally dictated by the wind. Are we going to fish today? It depends on how the weather is. Are we going to farm today? It depends on how the weather is. Did we plant our crop too early and then we got a huge typhoon storm, not typhoon, but huge rain? Then some of their crops might be wiped out. They literally live by the land. The things that you talk about and say our ancestors used to grow their own food, that is life here. So, what I've learned is that I have found joy in really simple ways of living. So I have planted 4 olive trees in my yard. And this year, 3 years now, it takes 3 years to get a harvest. Did you know this? So if you plant for wine or for olive oil, it takes 3 full years for that tree to show out for the first time. So this year, my 4 olive trees are all generating a harvest. So I'm going to have my own olive oil from my own trees that I have grown. And every day for the last 3 years, I go outside and I talk to my olive trees and I water them and I ask that we work together for the health and nourishment of my family, of this land, and give thanks. Those are things that I never established in my life because it wasn't in my life. I wasn't growing olive oil. And Malta has a particular olive tree that is only indigenous to Malta, the Bidni, and it goes back 2,000 years to the Roman Empire by carbon dating. The Bidni is half the size of a regular olive, but it has double the power of antioxidants. They're actually working with the hospitals here to talk about research on fighting cancer and other autoimmune illnesses because the polyphenol levels are so high. They're so healthy, and the acid levels are so low. That is nourishment and joy from the inside. So, what's happened in my life is I have fallen in love with all of life. I look at the trees now. I take my shoes off and I sit in the ground and I talk to them, and the world is different. But that's how I found joy. So in my book, The Taste of Joy, I believe you can eat it. I believe that you can eat things as an emotional experience. So here in Malta, I learned from a lot of Greek people too. And this is what I love about them. First of all, they do not hold back on olive oil. They don't measure. Nobody measures here on foods. They put it in full fat Greek yogurt, full olive oil. They do it. They enjoy it. And the rule is this: at the end of the salad, you drop that bread into the bottom and you soak it all up before you eat that last bite because they don't want to waste. And that's the part that makes you feel sublime on the inside. It's not what do you weigh? What do you look like? They don't, that is not what they're out here doing. And it has been a breath of fresh air from my body, my heart, my soul, and everything else. Because never in a million years did I think somebody was going to put me on camera at 48 years old and say, hey, now I want to start interviewing you and have a camera crew and go with you. That never would have happened where I come from before. But here, they really just want to know one thing: are you good people? Because if you're good people, you are invited. You're invited to this table. You're invited into these families. I now, the farmers and the people in my world now, they're the most sacred, special people. And I have one farmer that calls me at 6:30 in the morning so many days of the week because he knows I'm up getting my kids ready. And he'll call and say, you'll never believe where I am. I'm cutting fresh capers. You won't believe what it looks like, because he knows I'm going to find such excitement in this. I love walking through the woods with him and saying, what's that plant? What's that for? What's that flower? What does it do? my life is so different, but it doesn't just have to be about me. So here's the thing. Here's what I want to offer to you from today. As I've done a lot of interviews for the books, I find that people want me to make it really simple, that you can feel joyful with solid self care, with body awareness, with talking to yourself, with affirmations. And that's true, but it's kind of minimal. So let me be really honest. If you really want to change some part in your life that allows joy to come in and stay with you have to make a change. Doesn't mean you have to move, doesn't mean that you have some big change, but you have to make room for joy to become part of your life, to become part of your living experience. There has to be some space that you make. And I'm going to compare it to body healing. If I've learned anything in body healing, it's probably from craniosacral therapy. And they talk about that we have to change the environment inside our body so that we can self regulate and self heal. But there has to be a method, which is what the hands on healing is, to help the body to self regulate and to heal from the inside. You have to create an environment where healing is possible, where it's an option. So that's the same thing in life with joy. You have to create an environment that allows for joy to come into your life and stay there for as long as it wants to be there. And here's the other part. We have to stop making ourselves feel guilty when we feel joyful. When joy pays you a visit, stop. Stop whatever you're doing and close your eyes and breathe it in. And then take a bite of it, whatever it is. If it's food, which is how it's my love language is food. So when I eat something that came right from the farmer, like another example, our olive oil guys that did the Bidney olive. We did an interview on the Bidney, and I went to go bring them the magazine because we have it on internet so people can all go see it, and then they get it in the print magazine. And I go back to their house and I bring them a copy of their magazine. And I went to the farmer and I said, "Here's your magazine." Hi, can everybody hear me? I don't know what happened. Are you there? Can somebody say yes? Can you see me? Okay. So sorry. I don't know what just happened, but what I was saying is that when I went to drop off the magazine, the farmer wouldn't let us leave without picking fresh pomegranates for me and my children. And that's what people do here. They give food. They give love. It's not this money-driven society over here. It's killer. And I want that for the rest of the world, honestly, is to really be there and be present to your life. How do you feel the joy? So, because we have this big break, if you have any questions for me, if you want to discuss anything, if you want me to discuss anything, I'm watching now the comments more closely, and I'm really sorry that I got cut off. I thought maybe I went too long. But if you want to ask me something in particular, the book is called. So I saw somebody ask that. The Taste of Joy: Mediterranean Wisdom for a Life Worth Savoring. Mediterranean Wisdom for a Life Worth Savoring. So it is food based. The table of contents, we really set it up like a menu. Do I talk about the guilt in my book? The truth is, I talk about guilt in my other books. My other books are about body healing and the conversations that we need to be having with our body, and how guilt and shame and guilt, shame, trauma, and one other one sit in your body, and then also the fabulous four: happy, joy, connected, and empowered. So, four heavy emotions, four positive emotions. So the truth is, those do all go hand in hand. And until I came here to Malta, all of my writing has been about body healing. So I am the author of the book, The Body Heals Itself, Whole Body Healing, Healing Ourselves Whole, Witchy Mama, and Stretch Therapy before I came here and wrote The Taste of Joy and changed everything in my life. No guilt. Um, the guilt that may come with feeling joy. That's what you're asking. What happens is a lot of people, when they allow themselves to feel joy or happy or any of those positive things, somehow kick it into high gear on the guilt side and think we shouldn't be feeling this way. Any sort of trauma that you've been through, especially loss, and that's happened maybe sooner, then we really have a hard time allowing ourselves to feel happy and joy. Okay, so A is the way that life in the U.S. when you were growing up in the 50s and 60s has been destroyed. I grew up in Manhattan and the Bronx, and people had more mitral valve issues. Also, Runa Troy asked me, know the guilt that may come with feeling joy. And Runa, again, being present to your life. Being present to our life is one of the hardest things to do. But once you get in that flow, it becomes a lot easier. But I will tell you this: where I'm living is like heaven. It's like heaven on earth. It is like paradise. And I have to stop myself all the time to not go into those old habits. Oh, you're having too much fun. You're living it up. You're being too free. You feel too great. What's coming around the corner then? Because no one is supposed to feel this happy. And then I have to stop and say to myself, you are allowed to feel joy. You are allowed to feel free in your body, in your thoughts, in your mind, and in your life, and in your actions. You are allowed. I am allowed. I'm allowed to feel the joyful expression of my life, because if something were to happen to me, I would really wish I would have enjoyed it more. And I'm finally using that time to do it. So, yes, thank you, Runa. That's what you're talking about. Have permission to be happy. It's so hard for us to have permission to feel that freedom. And I know it might sound a little silly, but I feel that freedom when I drizzle olive oil. When I make myself some sort of food and I drizzle that olive oil, and I'm not thinking, oh, you got to lose weight. Nobody's going to like you if you're fat, whatever. That stuff, that mind stuff that we have been doing to ourselves for so long. And here's an example. I did an interview on the camera for tomatoes, and the tomatoes got 65,000 views the first week. 65,000 views in a country that has 500,000 people. 65,000 views. And it had hundreds of comments. And all I thought about was Brene Brown. Okay, I'm ready for the comments. I'm ready for the comments. I know what they're going to say. I'm fat. I'm old. I'm this. I'm that. I know what they're going to say. Guess what? Not one comment was about me. Not one. Every comment was from Maltese saying, way to go, Joseph. We love you, Joseph. We love Malta Sunripe. Yeah, tomatoes. Nothing, nothing was nasty. Nothing was mean and rude. Nothing was about our physical appearance. They loved it because I come loving their country and what I'm learning. And this guy can grow some tomatoes like no other. They're known for their sun-dried tomatoes. They're known for their hydroponic tomatoes. They're known for their greenhouse tomatoes. They grow tomatoes year round. They make wine. They're amazing. But to have that, unlearning of these people are not interested in what I weigh. They are not judging me and basing my worth on what I make in my money, in my weight. The numbers don't exist here. That's been the most shockingly brilliant way of life I've ever seen. Now, I could hook into the people that are obsessed with plastic surgery and Botox and looking the right way and dressing the right way. I was behind stage telling Sweet Anna that these are my favorite outfits now. These are $10 here in Malta, but I love them and I wear them all the time. I don't wear brand name designer things. That's not what I'm about. So the people that I've fallen in love with here, they're farmers, they're fishermen. They are not looking at my clothes. They are just, am I helping? And thank you, Runa. But that's been a huge experience to live in a place where the happiness and the joy comes from their hands. Their hands, the food they grow. When I showed up at my capers farmer, he does prickly pears and capers. He makes jam, Maliha homemade jam, and he's like become one of my dearest friends. And he's a lunatic. He's hilarious. And people miss because he's so crazy and outlandish. He makes up funny stories. He says that the reason I have all these contacts in Malta is because one of the presidents is my uncle. I'm not going to say which one. Um, and I keep saying to him, like, I don't want to be associated with that president. But he's like, well, if they're dumb enough to believe it, that's on them. But really, I built a whole life for myself over here. And the people are just, they're hysterical. I mean, I'm hoping to write a lot more. So I've started with the taste of joy, but I really would love to share my story because the people here have become, you know, a lot of the movies that come from the books are like a love affair. Okay, so I'm not having a love affair per se with another man. I'm having an affair with several men, many, many men, farmers, fishermen. So I take my kids to school in the morning. I take my husband to work. He doesn't even drive here. Our life is so different here. We have family breakfast, family dinner that I take everybody, and then I go gallivanting all over this island to dig my hands in the dirt, to see fresh artichokes and potatoes coming out of the dirt, catching fish in the water and cutting fresh capers off the bush. And I have done the most amazing things. Gone to the sheep farm and helped make goat's cheese and sheep's milk cheese and sea salt pans. And it's such a joyful adventure. And it is an affair. It's a love affair. It's the greatest love affair of my life. How cool is that? To just fall in love with life in a way that is so simple and earth based and beautiful and all that other stuff, that loud voices that we grew up listening to. We're not enough. We're not this. You shouldn't be this happy. No one's allowed to be this happy. Guess what? Happiness is homegrown. It is. And joy is homegrown. So today, later, try to find some good olive oil, get a little bread, do something super simple, have some wine, do something that makes you feel soulfully, delightfully nourished, because that is what joy tastes like. So I know that it's my time really soon. So if anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to respond. And I hope that you feel a little bit inspired because we all do have the option and the ability to change the path. And it might be small. It might be that you take a photography class that you've always wanted to take. There are so many classes online now. You might want to join an expat group. You might want to apply for a job someplace overseas. You might want to take a vacation. Whatever it is, if we haven't learned anything from 2020, it's that life is short. It is fragile and it is precious. And we cannot keep thinking that we have the time because we may or we may not. So please today, on behalf of the joy that can be found inside, you are allowed to be happy. You are allowed to live happy and healthy and wild and free. You are. So if you are not really happy where you are, look at how you can rearrange the environment so that you can self regulate and self heal from the inside, and then take it to every place that you can in your life. Eat it, eat it, savor it, taste it, enjoy it. For me, I love full fat Greek yogurt, not with all that junk in it. Get some really good quality Greek yogurt. Add some nut butter to it. I do some granola, some nut butter, some local honey. I do fresh fruits local. And that's the other thing. Just so we stop at the food trucks every morning and get our fruits and vegetables. And I bought this giant bag of fruits and vegetables and paid less than 20 for all of it. And it's all organic because it's not sprayed with all that stuff. It's all GMO free. So if you want to come see me in Malta, come on over. Come, and I picked up that guy yesterday from America. He's a doctor. He's here presenting. I've not met him. He saw me from my work and asked if I would come and meet him, and I did. And we went to lunch at one of my favorite places, and I took him to one of the prayer places for miracles, because there's so much prayer and abundance and spirituality here. And I do, if I have just a couple more minutes, I'll share one more story that I think is really important, and I have it in the book. My very first interview here with Oh My Malta was with Paul Zamit. He is a potato grower, and he grows the potatoes for Air Malta. And I wanted to dig potatoes out of the dirt because I've never been able to do that. What I didn't understand at the time was that in Malta, they have a huge wind problem. So they have several gardens, several farms, all under the same family. I didn't understand that. So he said to me, "We just harvested our potatoes last night, but I'll take you to a second farm and we'll dig the potatoes out there." So when I got to his original farm on his homeland, they had all these tables all the way across the entire field, next to the field. And they had these tables and chairs set out. And he said, "Last night we harvested this field. So all of my grandchildren, the cousins, my children, aunts and uncles, our family, we come and everyone harvests their own potato. They dig it out and then they put it in this wood oven, not wood, brick oven from stone that they have outside. And then at every table, they put in meat and potatoes in the oven. And then at every table, they have olive oil, of which they grow the olives, wine, of which they grow the grapes, and fresh bread. And they eat the meat, the potatoes, the fresh bread, the wine, the olive oil, and they party until everything is done. So, like 2 a.m., they really party. These people in Malta know how to play. They play well, they work hard, and they play hard. So, what I didn't understand when he took me to the second farm so that I could dig potatoes was that that is still theirs. That's their farm. So here's the lesson learned. They don't wait until the last potato on the last field gets harvested to do their celebration. Do you see where I'm going with this? They don't wait. They celebrate each harvest for what it is. And then they celebrate the next field and they pull those potatoes and they set up that celebration again and again and again. So they celebrate each harvest as it comes, because that's how they thank Spirit for a beautiful, bountiful harvest and ask for more. So, whatever your faith practice is, use it well, give thanks all the time, because gratitude drives joy. It just does. And becoming aware of the little things, the simple things, feeling the earth, touching those leaves, pulling something fresh right off the vine and eating it at its perfect time, that's tasting joy. That's tasting bliss bites. And the potato farmer, he taught me first. You celebrate the harvest and you celebrate each and every harvest. Change your life that way. You will change everything in your life if you begin to celebrate the harvest. Every harvest that you do, every small thing that you do, every celebration, for me, when I was suffering debilitating anxiety, panic, and agoraphobia and could not go to the grocery store, this was years ago, but it was debilitating for years for me. And I would come out of the grocery store and give myself praise. Nobody else would be excited for that, but I knew how hard that was. That's what I mean by celebrating the harvest. You start with the small things and build, and you will all of a sudden later, you will notice that you've changed your life. You've changed your heart space and your mind, and you've opened up a faith practice. And that's what it is gratitude and celebrating that harvest. I really, really hope that that helped. And I hope that tonight you start on your own. Eat something that is magnificent, that's pure, that's delightful. See how it feels. Take your time with it. Close your eyes, savor it, breathe it in, touch it. Be be tactical with it. Use all the senses instead of just one. And then take it in and let it grow inside your heart and let it make your life different in a good way, really good way. Please, please celebrate the harvest. Taste the joy, the taste of joy, Mediterranean wisdom for a life worth savoring. I'm Emily A. Francis, and you can find me all over social media. And if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, Emily A. Francis, or Instagram is My Malta Life or Emily A. Francis Books. I put up videos all the time from my garden. So I have lemons, I have pomegranates and carob and olives this year, and what else? Oranges and tangerines. And so I keep everybody up to date. Just today, yesterday was the first day that our jasmine flowers opened. So I'll keep you posted, and hopefully you can taste a little joy for yourself and make it your own. Thank you.